right, what we doing?
You had said something about social media marketing.
Yeah.
And like I think I initially pitched that to you a few weeks ago when Halsey and I'm not sure if you were there, had a conversation with a client who basically told us that they're shopping every vendor that will talk to them, and no other vendor is putting the emphasis on social that Car Simon is. And they asked why that was.
Right.
And it got me a little frustrated because I feel like that's like the epitome of, all the conversations that we're having. Everybody's so focused on VIN level that nobody's really looking at the prospecting level. And, Halsey and I got to talking about why bigger companies, I don't know if I can name drop, but like why they don't put such an emphasis on social media. And so like I got to go out and like talk to a few. I've been hunting out in like northern and western Ohio and like out towards Pittsburgh. It seems like there are a lot of dealers there who are starting to get kind of creative and involved in their social media content, and they're all seeing results from it. So I went out there to talk to them a little bit. And one of the first questions I ask is, what is your vendor doing for you on Facebook? And, it's always the easy answer. Well, we're doing inventory ads, we're doing carousel ads, we're doing lead ads, but no one ever talks about the actual like video content that they're doing. And so one of, my favorite things to say, most of the people that you're reaching on social media aren't active shoppers. Like they're not ready to decide which model, which offer they want to land on. So if you use your messaging to sort of accommodate all those other people that aren't that small percentage of active shoppers, that you'll see even more results. Because it's always, yes, we want to go after low funnel shoppers, but where are they coming from? We have to keep providing you with low funnel shoppers. They don't just appear. So that's why we talk about social. And with these larger companies, it's really hard to have, like they have so many accounts for every employee. And then, you've got to worry about efficiency when you're such a large company. You've got to make sure that if somebody quits or leaves for whatever reason, you can just turn it all around. So all of their operations are very turnkey. And that inhibits the ability for a dealer to sort of use that more generic messaging, right? Because they're trying to use your dollars for, your models. We're working on all these co-op programs, so they have to make sure that the manufacturers are happy with them because they're a manufacturer partner. And it's almost like the dealer's message gets lost in everything. And so what I tried to explain to our client, I was like, we're not inhibited by this massive, operation turnkey template strategy. We have the ability to be accommodating to each dealer, that we can sort of, customize your messaging to reach these higher funnel prospects. And, I actually walked into a dealership and started talking about VIN driven. And one of the questions he asked me was, why can't I just take what you're telling me, like this strategy of social to shopping to search? Why can't I just take that to my current vendor and let them do it for me? And I said, that's a great question. Why don't you? Like, if
Yep.
they could
Right.
do it for you, I assume they would be excited like I am, and they'd be having
Yeah.
that conversation with you, and you'd already be doing it. And what I've found with companies who are aligned with like smaller, more local agencies like we are, is those people have the ability to do this like customized content, but they don't have the technological resources to go through all of this customer data and start plucking people based on behaviors. They don't have the ability to really execute it the way the larger companies do. And, the reason Car Summit, once again, is positioned in the best of both worlds, we have access to those resources that you need from larger companies, but we still have the ability to customize your messaging strategy so that your specific audience, your market, is responding to everything that you're putting out there.
It's like everything else in the automotive business, with especially with digital technology, it's easy to get into this kind of fix it and forget it mentality. And, that's kind of what digital advertising became over the last 20 years. And what I like about what's happening now with not just with social, but with lots of things going on in digital advertising, is it's getting back to the basics of people and process, which is not as easy for larger ad agencies, larger digital advertising platforms to adjust to at a more local level. So you're right. It's Car Simons positioned properly here so that we've got access to the big tech, the Oracles and the Googles and the Metas. We've got access to all of that data, and then we're whittling it down to how do we incorporate that into the dealership, and work within the funnel, increase engagement, improve lead quality, lead quantity, all those things, And yeah, and you can do that with social. And I think that we kind of got stuck in this fix it and forget it mentality. And that's why nobody's talking about it. I mean, I'm having the same conversations you're having. I don't know about social. It doesn't seem to be working anymore. Well, it's because we're not using it properly. You know, your carousel ads are fine, but it's not the end all with Facebook, you know?
And I feel like a big part of the miscommunication is like when we think of social as a sales tool, it's really not, because social media is sort of where, high funnel shoppers transition from casual consumers to active shoppers. So we need to be addressing it like that. It's just as much a prospecting tool as it is a sales tool.
Right. It's funny. It's funny how you like social for different reasons than why I like it, but they're both actually benefiting and feeding the same funnel. I like social because of the access to the data that it gives us. And when I say access to data, I'm talking about access to data that the dealership and nor ourselves even see. I'm talking about customer data. Somebody that's in the market for a certain type of vehicle, and because of their behavior on the internet, we know what kind of vehicle they're looking for because we've got access to all of that data, and then we start delivering ads to them. That's omni-channel. That's why I like it. Well, how do we get them into our funnel? Our dealership funnel. That's where your concept and your processes and how you're working with our clients on engagement is keeping them in our funnel, and that's what I'm excited about right now with social. I think you are too.
Yeah. And see, like where you're talking about bringing dealership processes into this, I feel like when we start looking at BDC operations, which your BDC is literally your point of contact for digital shoppers. Once they come into the showroom, they belong to the sales team, but when they're online, they belong to the BDC. And we've got kind of trapped in this mindset that the only lead is a form submission. So like you can kind of, I've been trying to kind of wean people out of that. Well, what about phone calls? Would you consider that a lead? Well, sure, phone calls are a lead. Okay, what about showroom visits? Isn't that a lead? And then we can start talking about what about anonymous chat conversations? What about price tool interactions? What about just impressions? What about when people view your ads, you're still interacting with that customer? So even though you can't see them as an identified shopper, that's still customer engagement that you need to be taking advantage of. And it seems like we're almost blind to it because it's like you said, it can't be tangibly produced as like, here's a customer, here's a phone number.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had dealers, we do Facebook lead ads. So it's actual leads that come in from Facebook so that they can see those leads in their CRM. And as we warn them, you're going to get a lot of leads. Most of these leads, 98% of them are going to be legitimate shoppers. Okay. But 90% of them are going to be very high funnel. Like we get that going in. And, invariably, over time, well, I don't know about these leads anymore, Matt. They just seem to be too high funnel. Well, what it is that your BDC or your point of contact has probably just not necessarily worked the process properly. So you're right. There's some training and some processes in the dealership that, if you just tweak a few things, and my most successful dealers are the ones that love those leads, that love that interaction, and that are okay with that high funnel activity because, there's high funnel activity, there's low funnel activity. Get them in all parts of the funnel.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Social, it's funny that you say what you say about social not being talked about, or at least if it is talked about, it's talked about kind of in jest. I'm hearing the same thing. And I totally agree. For the last year, we've been screaming at the top of our lungs, it is time to talk about social. And I'm not, and neither one of us is saying put all your money in social. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is handle your social activity properly, and it's multifaceted.